Hi, I'm Michelle Fenton, and welcome to the Happitecture Podcast. What would it take to develop resilient, sustainable communities? How do we design cities that support our collective happiness? Join me as my guests and I discuss how we can plan, implement, and foster places that allow us to flourish and grow. Welcome to the Happitecture Podcast, where we explore how spaces and our experiences within them shape our collective happiness and belonging. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by one of my favorite bands, Queer as Funk.
My name is Kat Hiltz, and I play bass in Queer as Funk.
And you do the bookings. Reach out to Kat for all your booking needs. Allison Gorman, I play trumpet.
Connie Buna, I am one of the singers.
Jocelyn McDougall, I am one of the singers.
Thank you, Queer as Funk. What about the other band members who are not here? Why don't we introduce them too? Other band members, we have Alan Olivier, who is our beautiful keyboard player.
We have John Nicholson on the saxophone.
Mark Van Rossi on the guitar.
Kate Johnson on the drums.
And we have our prodigal son, Luis Babyface Melgar, on the trombone 4 months of the year.
Yeah.
When he's not on the ships, the cruise ships, crooning away. Awesome. I've been to many of their shows, and I can say firsthand that the experience is uniquely one of collective joy, a space where strangers leave as chosen family. Based in Vancouver, Queer as Funk has been turning stages into dance floors and audiences into communities for more than a decade. Part advocates, part funk revivalists, they've built a movement of radical joy, queer visibility. Their song sets are homage to reviving the magic of Motown, positivity as resistance and resilience. This live recording will explore music as an act of placemaking, how they intentionally craft spaces of belonging through their energy and sound, and what the future of inclusive performance spaces could look like. This episode promises to fill you with rhythm, joy, and love. Welcome, Queer as Funk.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much,
No.
Michelle.
That is without question the best introduction we've ever had.
No way.
Oh, 100%.
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
It was thoughtful. It was researched. It was,
Well, I've researched you guys a lot. I've been to almost like every concert since you started.
Since the beginning.
Since the beginning. So it is a unique honor and pleasure to have you guys on the podcast. I've been thinking about having you on the podcast for many years. I just couldn't really come up with a connection between architecture and Queer as Funk, frankly. And all of a sudden it hit me. It's like, well, every time I go to your concerts, there is a place that is being made with your energy, with your love, with the specialness of the choices of music you decided to build this band off of. And so I want to talk about the genesis of Queer as Funk, because I think it's a really important and pivotal point in considering how bands start, and not just start in terms of musicians getting together to do the things they love, but as a social impact movement. And so I think Queer as Funk is one of the few bands I know that this has been your intention all along from the beginning. So I would love our listeners to get into that and hear, what was that intentionality? What did it look like? What was the seed of it? And how did it all begin?
Our fearless leader.
Connie and I met each other singing in an all-butch choir. So that's where it started from. And I kind of always wanted to start a band. And being in this choir was transformative for a lot of reasons, not the least of which being in a room surrounded by other, masculine of center humans, queer humans, was something that I'd never experienced before. And
So the choir was a queer choir.
the choir was a queer choir. Yeah, exactly right. So it was a butch choir. It's called Leadfoot. It was Ivan Coyote who started that choir along with a couple other folks. And pal of mine who was on trombone, who became our very first trombone player, Ellen Marple. We had met Ivan at a show that we did with Dan Mangan, who's everybody knows Dan Mangan. He's another local amazing musician. And I was like, we're going to weasel our way into this choir. Did. And once I was in that choir, I was like, oh, there's so many great musicians in here. This is where we're going to build our band from. So it's from that little community that we made this other little community.
And Allison, did you always know what kind of music you wanted when you thought about, I've always wanted to start a band?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? How did that start, and how did it sort of evolve into Queer as Funk? Because your music, your sets are the music choices you make are very specific.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get into it, but
I'd played in a lot of bands over the years. So I was playing in bar bands and I was playing in wedding bands. And I think, I was doing a little bit of DJing, and I think I was always of the mind that like, I know what people want to hear. Like I think we all do. And I also thought this was a hilarious name for a band.
Oh, so the name came with the formation.
Yeah, the name came first. And there were a couple of people in the choir that I went to, and I was literally like, I have this hilarious name for a band. Let's put this together finally. And as far as the music goes, yeah, I'm a big believer in play danceable music that is accessible, that's great, that's timeless, that people can get into. Nobody cares how esoteric your music tastes are outside of music school necessarily. So yeah, it was very intentional to play stuff that's going to fill the dance floor and fill up people's hearts.
So I would love to dive into the advocacy part, because one of the things that always struck me in, like, certainly when you start your concerts, is that you explain very clearly in a very human way why you're doing the music you're doing. And you pay such a beautiful homage to the fight of freedom, the fight of revolution, the fight against oppression, and the fight for people who have been marginalized. And so I want to talk a little bit about why that music is so critical and important. It's foundational to what you do as Queer as Funk, not just as musicians, but as advocates.
One comment to that is that, that piece has also been part of our evolution and growth. And in the first year of our band gathering, we had a really powerful call in by another choir within the community that brought really to our direct attention the importance of thinking about the music that we were playing and speaking very directly about where it's coming from. Predominantly Black music, born out of a time that we historically know as the Civil Rights era, which, as we understand, persists today. And so I think that's an important piece about that. It started it was a seed in the early stages of our development, and it's something that has really grown.
Yeah, I would say that's absolutely right. And I think our music choice started from a place of, as Allison was saying, accessibility. What's music that everybody knows, that everybody loves, that everybody can get into? And then we had this powerful calling in. We had this invitation to really investigate and interrogate what it meant to be a predominantly white band singing predominantly Black music. And so we made a really intentional effort as a team, as a family, as a group to investigate our own understanding of white supremacy and our own understanding of how that exists in the world and how that exists in us. And also understanding that we have a responsibility because we have a literal microphone and are on a literal stage. So that gives us a responsibility to to understand what our values are, to be able to articulate those values, to live into those values, and to be able to speak to those values when we're on that stage with that microphone. And that really enabled us to evolve our understanding of the music that we played and to really begin to be in relationship with where it actually came from. And it wasn't just, Stevie Wonder, and everybody knows Superstition. It was like, what was the role that Stevie Wonder played? What was the role that Aretha Franklin played? What were the roles of all of these other musicians in this time of incredible revolution and this seeking of rights? And then we start to really think about and understand the overlap. When we're talking about an effort of liberation, we understand that all of our liberation is tied up together. So as queer folks, as people who began a band from a place of belonging, of wanting to create a place of belonging for queers, to be able to make music together in a way that is not accessible to many queer musicians. Most queer musicians are out in these streets, like trying to make a living in mostly straight environments and mostly straight bands. So the initial seed of this band was about queer belonging for the band members. And then we came to understand our relationship with this revolutionary music. And then we came to understand the extent to which we were creating belonging for our audiences. And we were creating spaces of belonging for queer audiences, queer music lovers, and their friends, their straight friends, their allies. This is how this all kind of evolved into what became a very kind of organic movement, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, one of the things that always struck me when I went to see you guys play is the diversity of the audience, not just queer audiences, straight audience, but straight people, couples, young people, old people, married people, single people. It's insane how incredibly diverse. I think if you wanted to take a picture of diversity, I would say take a picture of one of your concerts. It's pretty unreal. It's pretty magical that the music you have brought back, in a way, revived, to use that word, has a reach beyond what you thought it was, building belonging for your queer family, and how incredibly expansive the intentionality of that first seed has become and grown. And I see you guys perform in all kinds of spaces, which we'll get to because it is the Happitecture Podcast. We have to get to space making at some point in the conversation. But I think for me, you do create a space when you sing, when you perform, and you create a safe space for inclusion, not just for belonging of queer families and friends. But I remember seeing you perform at one of those summer places in Yaletown where they shut down the streets. And there were all kinds of people who rolled up, heard you perform, and stuck around and started dancing. And they weren't even allies of queer people who knew about you. They were just random passersby. And I was like, I'm going to observe this. And I think that was the moment. Is like, we got to get these people on the podcast, because this is what placemaking can be when you extend the thing that you love the most to be inclusive and to be thoughtful and intentional about how you create space. And as an architect, I think we sometimes forget that creating space is not just about walls and windows and doors. It's about that intentionality of who you want to bring into a space and why. So that was a long segue into how you started. But I think it's important to build on what the crux of Queer as Funk is, because I think without that intentionality, without that idea of reviving the music of Motown, for whatever it meant, for whomever it meant, even to today, I think you wouldn't be Queer as Funk without that. What do you say?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that music is powerful, revolutionary, but also timeless, as Allison said. I think that's the music that allows us to draw such a wide variety of audience. That's a big part of it, because everybody can find themselves in the musical taste. Everyone can find the beat. Everyone can find the melody. Everyone can find their own musical tastes reflected in that sort of those classic tunes. And then we get to enable them to find themselves energetically with people who are different from them. And we invite them to find their joy and to share joy with people who are different from them. And now we're talking.
Amazing. Yes?
I just looking at Kat.
Because I haven't said anything. You all are doing such a beautiful job. I agree with everything.
Yeah. Well, tell me what is special about this band that you get to perform with, and the audience that have the privilege of hearing you perform.
Yeah, I'm struck. I resonate with creating space. I feel like that's one of our main goals. Our main driving purpose right now is just to create queer spaces, which comes with a contract that you will be safe where we are playing. Like if you're here as an audience member, then you are included. As queers, we definitely have experiences of being excluded. So we're just extending what it means for us to be belonging. And I suppose the other thing that kind of was resonating was, or at least it made me think about what we are receiving from some crowds and where we can go and then, spread it and give it to other crowds.
Yeah,
So we're kind of
I like where you're going with
exchanging
this. Yes.
energies of like one of the most impactful concerts of the summer for me was when we went to play at an elementary school. And it was for a bunch of children and they were just, they're just experiencing their childhood and like, oh yeah, and I have a queer mommy and I have, whatever. It's like, I felt that we were learning from them, and then we were able to bring the power of that type of inclusion and then giving it to, communities that, would not would benefit from it, but just like creating spaces that are inclusive in that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's two questions that are coming up for me. One is, you've been doing this for more than a decade. That's a long time. You're very accomplished musicians, but there must be something about performing for that long together that transcends just being a good musician by yourself. I want to talk a little bit about how this family has grown. And you talk about, like, you take one experience and the gift of that experience of sharing, and it gets transmuted and translated from audience to audience. But there must be something that audience does to you as performers that evolves your musicality, evolves you as a human being, evolves you as a family.
One of the things that come to mind as you say that, Michelle, is there's something special. And I mean, I speak from Jocelyn and I, this is our band experience versus Allison and Kat and some of the other people in the bands where they're professional musicians and they've played in many, many, many bands. So without having another reference point, my observation, and we say this even when we're talking about welcoming other people, new members, it's more than just creating amazing music. Creating amazing music and bringing your very best musically to the table is the baseline. But there is a deeper purpose and a deeper drive that I think as a collective, we've been continuing to sharpen with clarity. That is also what keeps these amazing musicians that are in our family coming back to us. And we've noticed, again, with, we're like 12-ish years on now, we've had a number of different people come in to our group and carry on for one reason or another. And what I've noticed is that those that stay and continue to come back, it's more than the music. It's a bigger part of a movement of placemaking, of creating safe environments, of making impact with music. And that's become an important consideration for us when we're saying yes to opportunities and invitations. How does it align with our core values? How does it allow us to further our message of inclusion and revolution? Like, these are important pieces over and above, like, is it going to be a great venue for us musically?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would add that it's interestingly, I think you're absolutely right, Connie, that it has gotten sharper over the years. But in a way, for me anyway, my understanding of it has actually gotten a lot more simple. And the simplicity of it is all about love. It's love. It's love made real. It's love inside the band. We stay because we love each other, because we share love and we like exchange love together as we make music. The music that we arrange, we play all covers, but we do many of our own arrangements. Those arrangements are born out of our love for each other. We like hash it out on the rehearsal floor. You know what I mean? And like people put ideas in the ring and then they don't make it and they end on the cutting room floor, but like it's all love, right? And so we create from love. I mean, I personally believe that creation is an act of love, and we love one another and we care. We demonstrate care and we enact care for one another, not only when we're together in the rehearsal room, but like in our lives. We do a lot of mutual aid. We do a lot of mutual care, right? As we've been through all kinds of stuff. There's been babies, there's been marriages, there's been, all kinds of stuff. And then we get up on the stage and we try to invite people into an experience of love for the music to start with. That's the gateway drug. And then we invite them to experience loving each other.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to what Kat was saying, the experience of giving to the audience and them giving back. I think when you think about it in this container of love, it's expansive and
Yes.
there's no boundary to it. And it keeps growing and keeps building and keeps supporting not just your family, but the people who, I think, one of the things I hear from audiences is that they will go to a Queer as Funk concert again and again and again. And they might hear the same songs, but it's not the songs they're there for. It's the experience of feeling love and inclusion. And I think that's why your audiences are so faithful.
I agree. I mean, I think that's part of what feels, and it's sort of hard to say out loud, but it feels true, that building spaces and experiences that are rooted in love is a profoundly revolutionary act in the time in which we're living. In particular, a love that is extended to everyone, from everyone to everyone, where the invitation is you can love every single other person in this room, no matter who they are, no matter who they love, no matter where they're from, how they talk. You know what I mean? Like, you can love every person in this room and every person in this room can love you. And that's a profoundly revolutionary thing to invite people to step into in a time where there's so much fear and division and people's lives are hard. Life is scary and people are looking for ways to protect themselves. And that protection often looks like cutting off love, cutting off people who are different from you, that you don't understand, that live their life in a way that doesn't match the way that you live your life. And so love becomes revolutionary in that context.
Yeah. I think also that the amazing thing about the choice of music or era of music that you've landed on, that came to be through you, is that it is very visceral. It's not. So I think one of the challenges we have today is that I feel like our ability to dialogue with love and mutual understanding that the other person you're dialoguing with is another human. But I think what your music does, it shuts out that sort of mind analytics and brings you to an embodiment where you can't help but dance, you can't help but sing, and you forget the otherness, and the spirit and the energy that the music and your energy bring to your audiences is that you allow us to forget that we're thinking, and we just dance and we just sing and we just hug the random stranger beside us and dance with them. I would recommend anyone listening to this podcast to go get a ticket. Because first of all, it sells out real fast. I've experienced it, even though I've known you for a long time. I've experienced being shut out of a concert because I was too late to get my ticket. So number one,
a ticket for you, Michelle. You know that.
I will just say, get your ticket right away because it is. It's a phenomenal experience. It's not something that you experience when you go to a normal concert or another concert. It is truly remarkable. And I want to just, I think it's important so people who are listening to this to just get on it, get a ticket.
One piece of feedback that we do get consistently, and I think have since day one, is you guys look like you're having fun up there. And it's genuine. And I mean, we've played in lots of bands before. Sometimes it's work.
Yes.
I don't know that I've ever had a gig where it feels like work.
No.
I think we're good at being in the moment, and we have a million different moments with each other on stage, and we're also focused and doing the job. But I think that's contagious for the audience.
Yeah, and I think that I'm talking a lot about your energy, and I think it's an important factor because there's the music, and there's the audience, and there's the musicianship. But the energy is something entirely different. And it's shared not with you guys on the stage, it's shared with your audience, and it's palpable. And I think we're sort of getting to the fact that the love is probably the energy we're talking about. And just to be really simple and straightforward about it and not to get too fancy. I think when you break it down to that, the energy is love. I want to also talk, I know we have to talk about architecture at some point.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Love is the space.
We can talk about one of our favorite venues, which is that venue in Whitehorse, the Longhouse.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
We have a live off the floor recording from that venue that is frankly as good as recordings we've done in professional studios.
Wow. Okay, so
So to speak about like architecture,
yes.
that was just the way that space was designed was perfection.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a whole thesis to talk about the longhouse design. I mean, the longhouse design was designed for performance, for community gathering, for love to be exchanged over and over through generations. So
For acoustics
and
for oral culture.
exactly. So it makes sense that the architecture will respond to its intended use in a way that you don't need amplification. You don't need to add anything else to it. It's just naturally designed to support those things. I want to talk about, I'm glad you brought up your favorite venue because you've performed at many different venues. You performed outdoors, indoors, at the Commodore, at this longhouse. Do you feel as performers, I mean, I think you've hinted to it, does the space inform you as artists in creating the venue that is ripe for love, ripe for all these energies we're talking about? Or does your music and the energy you bring inform the space? Or both?
I think both. I feel like I'm thinking only about the times that it was like a negative environment or like a not a great feeling environment. We're like, well, let's just, we'll make it ours and this show is for us. And,
Okay.
The two that I'm thinking of were the basement.
Yes. We played in an event where the organization was fundraising for inclusive space and specifically accessibility.
Mobility accessibility.
Accessibility. And then we were placed in the basement down a giant staircase with no other access point.
Oh,
yeah.
So that felt weird.
Yeah.
And consequently, there was like quite literally no audience. Like everybody was upstairs.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me more about this. How... I mean, I'm not sure what to say about that because
we weren't either.
Clearly there's a disconnect, right?
Yes.
There's a disconnect in someone not understanding the purpose of why you're there and putting the dots together. So when you have a situation like that, as performers, you're very skilled. You've performed in so many different venues and types of venues. What is the thought when you get to this space? And the reason you're there is clearly not been considered. In fact, ignored, radically so. How do you then recalibrate how you bring inclusivity to that situation?
I mean, I'm going to pass it back to Kat because it's exactly what you said. We make it for us.
Yeah.
We decide that it's for us. We come back to us.
And we did do that in that big.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I mean, Jocelyn is always so wonderful at a huddle where she brings everybody together and we have a moment of thinking about our purpose, which is very important, especially when we're wrapped up in our thinking minds about like, oh, we're not getting paid enough and this was far away and we're at some like colonial building for rich people and like,
Yes.
it's that this is the reason, which started with us. And then we can then with that, whether or not in that situation, I think that we're kind of like bringing it back here so that we are able to, to give to the audience, whether or not they're there. In that case, they weren't, which was fine. But yeah, it's like coming back to your breath. I think it feels like the band is our breath.
Yes.
And it's interesting because we've been in other spaces where I was just thinking, 2 weeks ago, we were playing at a wedding where we played in a spot that was like clearly not set up for musicians, but we crammed in there. Like we were essentially on like a vestibule, like an inside-outside space in a beautiful garden. It was beautiful, but it was not like a set-up stage in any way. And yet we made it work. And we had the feedback, I think, from anyone that was at that event was that was outrageous, like amazing. We loved it. And we loved it. We all loved it. And, it was conventionally maybe a little bit strange, our setup. The drummer was like inside the space and Jocelyn and I were outside the space with like horns behind a ledge and the keyboards behind like a fence.
It was not designed as a stage.
No, it was designed as it was the beautiful Sun Yat-sen Gardens. Like it's a beautiful space, and they were, we were just trying to basically fit into the most reasonable space available. And so I think we're pretty flexible. Like another gig that comes to mind is our gig for the labor union at 8:00 in the morning in Montreal in an
Aircraft hangar.
huge, massive space.
Like a conference center that could accommodate 3,000 people.
Yeah, and there
Like
were 3,000
massive.
seats.
Yeah.
And we're on
At 8:00 in the morning, did we say?
8:00 Eastern time when we had just flown in the night before from PST. So it was
Montreal.
like 7:65 in the morning.
Right.
for us.
And we had a wonderful gig. They were standing on their feet. And like lots of people coming up after the show being like, where do you play? Like, this is so wonderful. Thank you. What a beautiful way to open the conference. Again, that, again, thinking about things that just like align with purpose felt so good. And I think it speaks to that, we have these experiences where we play in the Commodores of the world, or we played a beautiful stage at the PNE recently, professional stage.
Yes.
The Longhouse, phenomenal. We don't necessarily need that to
Right.
create what we're creating.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think it always comes back, like, again, to speak to Allison's point, that we have both played in so many other bands where we do not take a moment before to, everyone's doing their own thing and they're texting their girlfriend or whatever it is. And then they get on stage. It's not a mindful activity. Whereas somebody here always gathers us together and we hug each other. This is our pre-show rituals. We give every other member in the band a hug. And it really brings us back. And I remember when I first joined, I think it was the second or third show I played with these folks. That happened. And I just cried, because I was like, I was feeling especially tender. And it just was like, we are here. It's like noting this group and noting what we're doing.
So when Queer as Funk performs, venue be damned, you're going to bring your own venue, your own heart, your own life, your own energy. Venue would be nice to have a nice venue.
Yeah. And we will do, we've also started to professionally make considerations to what we're bringing to a gig in a venue. Even when I think of what we did at the elementary school, where we brought one little speaker and acoustic instruments.
Right.
And we were in a school gymnasium.
Yes.
With elementary school students. And we still had, we are very, very, very blessed to have Jocelyn, who is a facilitator extraordinaire. So she can do absolutely amazing things in pretty much any group to just gather energy and space. And, that was great. Like, as Kat said, that was one of their favorite gigs of the summer.
What's remarkable about that is, as the architect in the room, the thing that I'm thinking about is, sure, architecture can support placemaking, but placemaking happens for whole other reasons. Because you bring your true self, because you get grounded, because you bring the thing that is most important to you together as a family. And that's what is the placemaking, not the venue.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I will claim my own bias as a person who facilitates for a living, that for me, whereas for you as an architect, a lot of what you're thinking about a lot of the time is the built environment. And for me as a facilitator of conversation, what I'm thinking about a lot of the time is relationality. And so when I think about placemaking, and in particular when I think about Queer as Funk doing placemaking, for me, it's really thinking about what are the relationships? What are the relationships that have pre-existed us? What are the relationships that we're coming into? And what are the ways in which we want to try to navigate the relationship that we may have or maybe trying to build inside of the community that we are stepping into? And or what kind of community are we trying to build? Because I think we do different types of gigs. Sometimes we get brought in regularly. We get brought in to what I would categorize as sort of a community that pre-exists us. So for example, we get brought in to play the closing night of a conference. We've played this gig with the Society for Transition Houses for, 11 years or something, every year as the closing night of their annual conference. So this is a community that pre-exists us, right? It's a community, it's like a community of best practice, et cetera. And we come in and we think about why are these people gathered? What have they been getting up to? What is their life like? And how can we come in and weave into that? How can we add joy to that? How can we recognize and uplift and amplify the hard, important, revolutionary work that they are doing? And how can we be here to show them that we appreciate why they exist in the world? We do that with the BCTF, which we played for many times, for example, and at the Union Conference, for example. On the flip side, we do other kinds of gigs where there is no pre-existing community, where people are just randomly coming to the show, who may not be in relationship with one another outside of the event of this night. And in that context, we're thinking about what can we do to allow people to feel like they're leaving as a community, that this was a happening that only these people got to experience and that we share something now. And that for me is what the placemaking that we're doing. It's synonymous for me around community building and relationality.
Wouldn't it be great if architects thought about our buildings in the way you just described?
Well, I think very good architects, like the one we happen to be sitting with right now.
Well, thank you. It is
architecture for all your
When you talk about creating this family, this group of special people who come to your show, they come in as random people, but they leave as a special cohort, let's use that term, where they're leaving together as a community, whether or not they connect after. There's something that's very binding when you go to a Queer as Funk concert. What surprised you the most from seeing that happen for 12 years? Was there an experience that you're like, I could not have envisioned this? Whether good or bad, hopefully good, but...
One thing that comes to mind right away is the surprise factor. The person that's brought their father, the person that's brought somebody that might have otherwise not really been eager to go to a queer dance party, let's say.
Right.
And the feedback we get when they leave and they're like, you've got a new fan. Like that can happen also when we're invited into spaces that aren't specifically queer-centered spaces. And we often will get the feedback of like, oh my God, like, where do you play? Yeah. Like, how can we find you again? We just played a show for North Vancouver in Deep Cove for their summer concert series. And Allison was sharing that there, a number of audience members came up and talked to us afterward. And we had a whole bunch of new followers on our social channels and signing up for our newsletters. Like that is surprising to me and also just wonderful.
Why is that surprising?
I think you don't necessarily think about, again, when we're thinking about it from the lens of creating queer space, it's a nice surprise that we're so broad reaching that your North Van mom is like your biggest fan.
Yeah.
After this show.
That must feel really, really accomplished, hey?
Yeah, it feels wonderful.
Yeah.
And it helps us think about, it certainly helps me feel like, it's not just people loving on us because we're a queer band and we're creating queer space. Like musically, I think we're doing something really special.
Right. Yeah.
And people who aren't queer are also experiencing the love and belonging that we're out in the streets trying to, share. One of the things that comes to mind for me, Michelle, when you ask that question is, I don't know if a surprise is exactly right, but it was like a realization when we played the Commodore the first time, and every time we've played the Commodore since.
I recommend, by the way.
which is a
summer 2026. We'll be there.
High recommend. Get your tickets right away.
It's very special. It's very special for us.
Surprise.
It's a very special experience. But what I was going to say was, what was a surprise realization for me was the way in which us playing the Commodore creates a queer, safe environment on Granville Street. And Granville Street is not historically a place where if you are a woman, if you are not a man-identified person, and if you are queer, and particularly if you are visibly queer, visibly trans, Granville after 10 p.m. is not a place you want to be. Ask anyone.
Yeah.
That's not a place you go.
Yeah. I don't think Granville feels safe for anyone after 10.
And God bless the city of Vancouver. I think they're working really hard to try and come up with a new Granville Street plan. But for years, Granville has felt unsafe. So what was a realization for me was that when Queer as Funk lets out our show at the Friday of Pride weekend at 11:30 p.m., 1,000 queer and allied people
Yes.
go out onto Granville Street and make it safe.
Yes. Yes.
By virtue of numbers.
Yes. And community.
And community. And connectivity.
And community. Because I think, okay, so the other experience I've had at your concert is after the show ends, people linger around outside. They chit chat with a new friend they just danced with or had a nice time with. You have made something different. People are different after they leave your concert than when they went in, collectively. And so I don't know if it's just the sheer numbers, because I've been to other events where the sheer numbers get let out and people go their own ways and it actually feels unsafe because of the massive crowd. Whereas with the experience at least the experience I have had is that there is a desire to let the experience linger, you know?
I mean, that's beautiful. And maybe that is part of it too, right? It's that it's not just 1,000 randos getting let out onto the street. It's not even 1,000 queer randos getting let out onto the street. It's 1,000 people who have been connected.
Yes.
Who are now connected.
Yeah.
And so there's like a web of safety that sort of slowly spreads across Granville Street at 11:30 p.m. in the dark of night.
It's amazing.
I think how we program our shows has something to do with that too, right? Like we'll end our show with something powerful, a powerful message. We'll start and end the show with that. We'll end with like higher love or freedom and a message. And I think people are coming away with that message.
Yeah. Very powerful. You've sold out the venues like we've talked about, the Commodore over and over again. Commodore Ballroom. You've been honored by Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Congratulations. You just released your debut album. Like these are like incredible because you also have your own lives. This is something you do together and then some, and very rich in community engagement and community support in your own communities and your families. So these are all really meaningful accolades, but they're not just milestones. There's something about the collection of accolades you're starting to acquire. How does this affirm the actual impact you're making? Does it? Or does it seem like you get on the stage and you're there to make an impact anyway? So have you thought about the body of work you've done after 12 years, 10 plus years, and how that sits as an important impact in this community?
I think, walking out at the Commodore Ballroom and seeing 1,000+ people in the audience and seeing that they're like, people want this. Right. People have a thirst for this kind of message, for this kind of entertainment, for a big gay band on Granville Street, just like we were talking about before. Like that's pretty affirming.
So it's not the accolades really, it's the relationship with the audience that really is the impact.
Yeah, I find that to be the most powerful thing. I mean, putting our album together was also magical.
Yes.
And we have a lot of copies in my basement. They are for sale.
And remember to bring them.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. All the time.
It's a beautiful vinyl record.
Amazing. We'll have to definitely put a link on the webpage, on the YouTube, so that people can find you.
That would help us sell them if we had them for sale online, I guess.
Are you a salesperson?
I mean,
focused on other things.
I feel like Allison's right, though. I feel like it feels really nice to be honored in these various kinds of ways, but I don't know. I feel like we're always part of what, I don't know. You tell me what you guys think, but I think part of what is pulling us forward is this combination of continuing to spread this joy, this love, this message, and also continuing to make really awesome music.
Yeah.
Like, I think we never forget that we're here to make really awesome music. And I will say, as Connie was referring to earlier, neither Connie nor I have ever been in another band. Like, this is our sole experience of being in a band. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that I myself and also my experience of this band as a collective have grown immeasurably over the last 11 or 12 years, right? Like our musical quality, my own ability as a singer has increased. Your ability as a singer has increased.
Yeah.
And our ability as a band has increased incredibly over this period of time. So I think all of us are also drawn forward by it's both and, right? It's musical excellence.
Yes.
And like a deep and powerful desire to spread this love. Because I think, as I said earlier, I think the musical excellence is the gateway drug.
Right.
That's the thing that brings people in the door.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that allows them to open their hearts. And that's the thing, as Allison was referring to at the end of the show, that allows them to leave with their hearts full and open themselves enough to connect to each other.
I also think the music that you perform, Motown, demands musical excellence in its own right. And to be bold enough as a group of queer, mostly white people that take it on, I think is, yes, your musicality is improved, but I think the fact that you decided to take it on in the beginning, you're already starting at a high bar.
I think we also, the other thing about the music and thinking about how broad reaching our audiences are and continue to be is we're very open to diversity in the musical selections. Right. And so that's been a nice part of our evolution too. We're much more open now to playing contemporary music. We've incorporated some Chapel Roan into our sets, and like the kids, everyone loses it. But specifically, that is a song that is like of a time for the younger generation. And when I say younger, I'm thinking about even my own children at 6 and 10. They know that song. They love that song.
What song is this?
That's Pink Pony Club by Chapel Roan. Pink Pony Club, I'ma keep on dancing. You got it?
Yep.
And the other thing that we, again, it's not a random song that's popular. It's a song about queer culture. It's about finding belonging in the club. All of these things.
And the kids love it. Amazing. We talk a lot about the space you create. People talk about music in spatial terms. You hear wall of sound, you hear all these things. But what you're doing is building almost an invisible structure of joy, containing safety, joy, resistance, to be fair, resilience to being othered, and a safe space, as we've talked about. What's the one thing you hope that the experiences of your audience, time and time again, once the music fades, what do they take away?
I think the message is always to love across difference, and queer friendship. We do talk a lot about queer friendship in its many forms. That can be queer sexuality, that can be queer as in outside. And I think that every person on this planet feels like an outsider in some respect in their life. And that celebration of what it is to be queer, again, in any aspect, in any form, whatever form that happens to be, I think it's a call to community and that they belong.
Yeah.
And the community is in the otherness.
Okay, I'm going to read some incredible accolades here. Get ready for this, because this is amazing. What other band can get dozens of small-town-born, predominantly straight-laced baby boomers to sweat through their clothes and shout, "Queer as funk you up," along to some hecka tightly played tunes? Correct. No other band.
I've not read that.
Queer as Funk played spectacularly at my 70th birthday bash. We cannot adequately describe the energetic mood that this band offers up with every single number. Each of them is an accomplished professional musician, and together they create a memorable event. Guests have been calling us ever since to say how impressed they were with the music that kept them on the dance floor through 2 full sets, right from the beginning to the evening. I can't wait to see them again. If getting married again was a thing, we'd do it with Queer as Funk.
Oh. We're available for weddings.
Yeah, it's real. It's a real, I mean, you talk about community and creating this joy, collective joy, but I think I don't want to let the individual impact you have on every individual person that actually hears you perform. It's a pretty special thing. So yes, there's building community, but I think you have the ability to touch people individually and touch their souls. And I think that's what's so special about Queer as Funk.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Michelle.
Thank you for having us on
Yeah,
this
I'm so
wonderful
honored to have you
podcast.
on the podcast. And What's next for you?
What's next? Well, we're actually in this beautiful, very next is we're playing Salt Spring Pride, which by the time you hear this podcast will have long passed. That's the next thing. But after that, we're into this beautiful period where we're creating for our next big Commodore show. So we will be playing the Commodore.
Get your tickets
early,
or else you're not going.
The Friday of Pride weekend in Vancouver, which is the Friday of the August long weekend. But this is, for some of us, a very favorite time of year because this is where we're really creating, where we're throwing new ideas in the pot, where we're mixing it up and trying stuff out and maybe taking it and maybe not.
Yeah.
Trying something new.
Amazing.
So we're doing that for the next 2 months.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, congratulations. You deserve it. You deserve the respite. You deserve a period of creativity. Hopefully you bring more joy to us in the new year. And I couldn't be more honored to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
For more information on this or any other episodes of the Happitecture Podcast, you can find us at happitecture.com. HAPPITECTURE.com. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Happitecture Podcast. Thanks to our sponsor, Cora Architecture and Interiors, creating spaces for your well-being. The Happitecture Podcast is produced by Janessa Klatt.